Morning. Yes, perfect. Thank you. Yeah, sure. Okay, so I want to thank Stephen for inviting me to this conference. And I was actually a bit nervous because I'm not a technical person that much. I'm a content engineering consultant, actually. And I basically have more of a conceptual view on how we could use semantic technology to help Albert Heijn manage unified digital experiences. And after all these talks about JSONic and XML, I had to think about the fact that my son's name is actually Jason. And I actually have to get him from daycare after this talk to return him home to my partner and daughter. And her name is not XML, unfortunately. But her name is Giselle, which comes close. But my partner and I, we make up for it since both of our names start with an R. So there you go. And after listening to these talks, I've joined in after lunch, and I wrote some things that I've learned about what declarative is, because when Stephen invited me for this conference, I was like, I actually don't even know what declarative means and how it relates to the work I'm doing at Albert Heijn. So the things I've learned from the few talks that I've listened to after lunch was that declarative is about using meaning to enhance the experience between humans and machines, making implicit human knowledge explicit so that machines can reason and make decisions like humans. So that's how I interpreted it. And what I've learned from the talk from Lambert Mertens is that actually the combinatorial explosion that he mentioned is actually the explosion I'm seeing with data integration, the problem with what businesses have with data integration. And that's due to the fact that a lot of this development that they are doing to enable digital experiences is being done in an application-centric way. And that causes a lot of difficulties with integrating data between database silos, if you may. And it's costing us, the corporate world, billions and billions and billions of dollars to even, keep up with the digital transformation of humanity, so to speak. And I even believe that this is part of the cost of living crisis that we are having. Maybe it's a bit naive to think in that way, but if you look at it from a systemic way, then maybe it has some relation there. So I hope that semantic approaches and declarative methods can help us to resolve these difficulties that we're facing. So without further ado, I would like to jump into my presentation of how I would like to solve this issue at Albert Heijn. So my work at Albert Heijn involves a lot of modeling around content to make content more of a strategic enabler for creating unified digital experiences. And what I do is I'm building domain and content models. I'm also actually working now on the metadata model for our content hub, where all of our content that resides in many legacy systems right now are being centralized within a single system. And I've also been more of an advisor for things we do with content management systems at Albert Heijn, and actually also helping content specialists who are the end users of these systems to help them understand why their way of working is changing. And I actually was a content specialist myself at Albert Heijn, and I've actually worked with XML to create web and app pages. So I do know a little bit about the technology, but not in depth, so that you can ask me questions and then I can give a coherent answer about the technology. So I always like to start with definitions. So what is content when I'm talking about content right now? It is a form of information in formats such as text, images, videos, audios, etc. Anything that can easily be consumed by humans. And then what is linked data? To me, it's a method of publishing structured interconnected data so that it enables machine readability, but also the ability to do semantic queries on that data and actually integrate the data across platforms. And now, then what is content as linked data? To me, it's a paradigm shift in content management as a discipline, where content is treated more as a network of structured data points instead of static documents, so that the discoverability and accessibility of content is enhanced, but also the interoperability between systems that deal with content. And why is this important? Well, as I mentioned before, I believe that the way application centricity has been done for many, many years right now is it has caused a lot of problems, current problems for us, especially with the rise of digital transformation, and also the rise of the digitization of customer interactions. So what we see is that customers more and more are using multiple devices to engage with a business, and each touch point within that journey, it stores data about those customer interactions. But then on the other side, we also see a lot of inconsistency of data from the systems that enable these experiences. So from my discipline, where I work in, is that we see a lot of new marketing technology creating more and more silos of data that is very difficult to integrate to create that unified customer experience. So we also see that fragmentation of marketing technology rising and rising and rising. And what it does, it creates less resources to really focus on business goals. So the focus shifts more towards solving the problem of integration. And we also see that it takes more time to actually bring an experience to the customer, to the market. And it also inhibits the flexibility to analyze all of these interactions within this ecosystem. So the main question is, how can we keep up with all these challenges, and how can we stay, as a Albert Heijn, how can we stay leading within the market with offering these smooth digital customer experiences? And especially doing this at scale without adding a lot of resources to make this possible. And where it goes to is, you probably know Google always mentioned that the strings know things. Things, not strings. And actually, if you look at what Nietzsche said about there are no facts, only interpretation, or you could also apply that to there are no strings, only things. So it's not about the code, it's not about the data, it's about what does it represent that is connected to reality. And so from the perspective of Google, of course, they started with, okay, we want web pages to be findable by using keywords that exactly match on the content that is represented on those web pages. But if you would go deeper and really look at, okay, what do these web pages represent? They represent real things in reality. So it could be about a place or a person or an offer, et cetera, et cetera. And this is what Google meant by things, not strings. And they really banked on this, right? So they really grasped this concept and developed their search engine to be more semantically driven rather than very string driven. And from this development, you could say that content should be contextual. So it should be about the context and the intent that it conveys. Content should also be interconnected, so you need to be able to make relationships between concepts instead of having it as a siloed form of information. Content should also be meaningful, so it needs to communicate what it means. And it should also be adaptable so that you could be flexible enough to create those new experiences and to accommodate new insights. And it should also be dynamic, so it should be treated as a living, evolving entity, that it's not just Leonardo da Vinci, that's just the string and that's it, but Leonardo da Vinci is also a person who has done something in the arts, and so that you can relate a single concept to multiple concepts which exist in other domains. So content as linked data really means that content needs to be structured into meaningful data. So instead of having a document or an image as an unstructured kind of object, you should be able to treat it as an entity that you can create relationships with other entities, and in that way create a semantic network, a web of meaning and context that can evolve and can scale. So content as linked data really is concepts and not content. And to bring this back to Albert Heijn, looking at how our customers are engaging with our digital channels, what we see is that when customers are searching on our website, for example, for the concept of barbecue, they literally use barbecue as a string within our search box. And what they get is results that are worse than if a customer would search on Google for barbecue. So that's really strange, right? We don't even know how to use our own data and represent it as usable to our own customers. So the goal here is to be better than Google at serving our customers, so really become the Google of food, so to say. And what that means is when a customer searches for barbecue at our website, the customer should be able to experience that term as something that is related to multiple domains, because barbecue can mean something different from the one customer to another. Barbecue could mean something about barbecue products. For example, someone could be in search for meat to actually place upon a barbecue. But a barbecue could also be a tool for cooking, right? So that is what I mean with the concept can be different for everyone, the meaning can be different for everyone, and the system should be able to pick up those different kinds of meanings from a single input of a string. And if we could do that, then we could really offer that smooth customer experience at scale. And what you see on the left is an example of how these connections could work within different domains, business domains actually within Albert Heijn. So, for example, when we run a barbecue campaign, it always includes barbecue products, and those barbecue products can be used to create barbecue recipes. And those barbecue products can also be offered as a promotion. So there you see the different domains, how that barbecue concept can be related. And going to how will we reach this, state of network of concepts? It first starts with having a semantic structure. And here I show an example. If you look at the domain model right there with the pink icon on top, it's actually a high-level overview of the cooking domain, so to speak, where a recipe can be related to an ingredient, and an ingredient can be related to a product, but the recipe can also be related to a type of cuisine. And this richness of relationships allow us to dive deeper within the entities and look at, okay, what are the metadata that we use to represent that entity. And if we go deeper and we really normalize and relate the data on that level, then we can see that, for example, within a recipe, when the diet is plant-based, that could give a relationship towards the ingredients that are also plant-based. And if a customer is having a preference, a dietary preference for plant-based products, then those relationships between recipe and ingredient could help to serve that customer with plant-based related ingredients and recipes instead of pushing all kinds of meat-based offers and campaigns towards that customer. So here you really see the importance of connecting the dots within the metadata on the semantic level to create that smooth customer experience. A second thing is, from that semantic structure, you also want to scale it to other business domains within the business. So what you see here is that there's a certain level of integration necessary to do this, and also a certain level of broadening of the scope in which the data models are related to each other. So looking at going from a single database towards an entire network of databases that are connected to each other, you really need to be able to integrate the data from those different domains, as I've shown here, coming from the multiple databases, to create a more unified view of your entire enterprise data model that you have. And this could actually lead to more convergence on a tech level, in the sense that if you look at the application-centric way of doing development, then you really have a lot of data schemas that are really complicated and complex to understand and to also integrate with other systems. But if you would do this on a more semantic level and really start with, for example, an ontology, and from there drill down towards the metadata that is represented within databases, then you could actually reduce the redundancy that we are seeing in a lot of these data schemas that represent entities that are similar but still have a different meaning, and that different meaning is not being made explicit within the data schema. So that causes that redundancy of data that we are seeing with the application-centric way of doing things. So moving more towards a data-centric and semantically rich way of doing things, we could actually remove a lot of that redundancy and actually remove a lot of the complexity that we are facing within the application-centric way of things. And from there, if we have the semantic structure and we have been able to scale that semantic structure towards other business domains, that is the point where we can actually activate smooth customer experiences and really enable efficient business operations. So what it does is that going from unstructured and scattered content processes and documents, you really want to apply relationships between those different data sources, and you could use a knowledge graph to do this. This is just one way to do it, but also, as I mentioned, you could do that with an ontology. But it really drills down to adding that semantic meaning to the raw data, and really use that, process that to extract the most important entities that relate to your upper ontology, and from there try to really orchestrate the contextual decisions that you want to make within the experience that you offer. So if we would summarize this and look at how linked data can help in this, is that linked data really acts as the connective contextual tissue that holds the content's data structure together as it scales. So really, as it scales, you do not lose the foundational structure, but it really helps when it scales to keep that structure and to help to process the increasing complexity as business and customer demands change. So here you see the problems that I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, is where you have that inconsistency of data, and you can take that away by applying that semantic structure. And from that fragmentation of marketing technology, you could really, how to say it, resolve this by using the semantic structure within that scaling, so that you can have a more cross-domain composable marketing technology stack, and to really address that challenge of the digitization of customer interactions. With the semantic structure and the scaling, you could really apply that to create a smooth customer experience, which also creates not only value for the customer by being more relevant, but it also actually adds business value by taking away the costs of the redundancies, of course, but also the gains of a happy customer that keeps returning towards your business. And of course, the connection here is having content as linked data, so that the content that is exposed towards the customer is always relevant and can always relate back to the most important data pieces within your organization. So how does this look like, and how do businesses and really stakeholders within the business benefit from this? And this is also where I would say the declarative way of thinking translates into how businesses would use this and apply this to create that customer experience. Is that, these are a few examples how business could benefit. So one is, of course, navigation and exploration of data and content, where from a user point of view, you could say, okay, I want to easily follow links and paths from my interest in, for example, barbecue, and explore related concepts and ideas around barbecue. And having that linked data actually allows this and enables this, because you offer flexible and intuitive navigation to explore the data that underlying could be complex, but for a customer you make it easy. And this also ties into search and discovery. And this is not just for customers, but also for employees that deal with large amounts of data and content every day, is that you actually help them to find and access relevant information to their daily work. And this could be done with, of course, a standardized query language that can traverse the linked data and really extract those relevant pieces of information and insights for business analysis. And another part, of course, and a big part for content, as I practice this at Albert Heijn, is content personalization and recommendation. And this is really about allowing customers to discover new and relevant content, but in a rich way and in a way that is intuitive to them. So yeah, this basically concludes my talk, and I also want to show that there are a lot of companies that are already doing this. So some of the companies are born in the graph, so to say. So for example, Facebook, LinkedIn, you all know them. They really use this technology and way of thinking to connect users to, for example, for LinkedIn, potential job and job opportunities and business partners. But on the other side, you also have companies that come from a legacy place and are actually moving more towards the graph, where you see, for example, Amazon, they really bank on this by recommending relevant products to the customers. And yeah, you can see how this declarative way of thinking, how that is applied to the corporate world and how they benefit from it. So yeah, that was it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. That was brilliant. And I notice also other links with other talks today. I mean, your question of things, not strings, or facts versus interpretation, also links up with abstractions rather than representations that we've been talking about a lot. Mm-hmm. And I know that Peter mentioned something similar from Chomsky yesterday, who was talking about a similar sort of thing. That was very fine. Thank you very much. And it's lovely to see a lot of the things that we've been talking about for decades being implemented. Do we have any questions in the room or on the chat?
Well, thank you for your excellent presentation.
Thank you.
I've been doing this work for more than 20 years, and I can really relate to it. And what struck me most was your attitude towards what you called applications. It was an application mindedness, so to speak. And I might think that an application is basically maybe a representation of imperative programming as opposed to declarative programming, because applications support workflow, businesses making money, things like that. That's their primary focus. So I found that a very new insight. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And I still have a question.
Yeah.
Because I've been plagued by RDF, because everyone wanted to do RDF. But I'm still wondering, why did you choose for using RDF?
Well, actually, we don't use it yet.
Okay.
So it's all very much conceptual, but we are actually very close to starting to experiment with it, just to see how it could prove the theories that I showed in the talk, and also how it could be used to scale towards other business domains. So actually, maybe we will not only use RDF, but also move into RDF star, which is it's a new kid on the block to say. But I cannot say how we will what is a concrete use case of how we would apply it. So it's more conceptual at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I see someone on Zoom has got their hand up.
Oh.
Hi.
Speak.
Okay. So I have also like a remark and a question, I guess. So about the title, content as linked data, I wonder why, you chose this, because I'm in like a similar industry, and the hot term has been knowledge graphs for a while. And, in the beginning it was semantic web, then it was linked data, but that kind of passed, and now it's knowledge graphs, even though the technology stayed exactly the same, the RDF data model and so on. So I was wondering why because I heard, content specific knowledge graphs being called simply content graphs. So, but I guess we're talking about the same concepts here. And your presentation reminds me of similar ones I've seen about other big enterprises like Zalando and IKEA, for example. They have similar issues. So I was just wondering about the title, and my other question was, what stage of implementation you're in, and like, are you going to use RDF and SPARQL? But you've answered that already, so thanks.
Why I use content as linked data is because I want to be this concept, and this idea should be as big as content as a service, which content as a service started with the separation of layout and the actual content within the headless CMS space. And I really want to provoke that part of the ecosystem, so to say, to encourage them to look into more semantic technologies to help the end users of these content management systems and digital asset management systems to benefit from declarative methods and semantic technology. So it's really, it's I would say, marketing driven. That I call it content as linked data, because content as a service is, I think it has reached its limits now, and we need content as linked data to drive the discipline towards the future. So that's
I guess like my like you could also try to look for content graph, because I think you would find very similar concepts, you know, and this is sort of an existing term that I've seen already. But yeah, the same idea as that.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
well, thank you very much
Thank
again,
you.
Rafaela.
Yeah.